Just giving a minute for everybody joining. So those of you watching this on the replay, it usually takes about 4.5 minutes for us to be all good. I think today will be a bit quicker, but feel free to forward till you see all the faces and then you jump in. Hello, everybody. I've had quite a few people let me know they can't make tonight, but I've got no idea how many of us are going to be here, but I'm really excited that we're here. Just admitting the people as they pop in. Alicia, that profile pic of yours is beautiful.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be able to join. I was at the office and busy, and I wanted to ask you, are you going to have the recordings for all 3 of the sessions available to people to be able to review?
They're all in the private Facebook group. So on the Soul Body Mind Facebook group, they're there and they're going to be there for the rest of the week, and then they go off.
Perfect.
But
Okay.
then if people want to, if somebody wants to maybe purchase it, they can purchase it, and then they get the slides as well that they can have lifetime access. But for the rest of the week, they'll all be there.
Awesome. And you look lovely as well.
No, thank you. I'm going to jump right in, I think. Yeah. Oops, somebody's here. Welcome, welcome. It's so nice to see familiar faces and the new faces, and just that we're all here together again. It's such a privilege to be here, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to commit to this process and to this class. I want to ask if you guys feel comfortable with it to take your mute off just for a minute and to share how you're doing. How have the last 2 days been? Have you been able to feel any different? Have you started trying to practice some of the things? Has some stuck? Have some, resistance? Whatever it is, I'd love to chat. Garita, are you struggling to get you unmuted?
Mm-hmm.
I'll try and see if I can. Better. There we go. So everyone wants to jump in and just share. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I know it's not nice to be put on the spot, but I would love to have some feedback, some interaction. I find we get so much more when we share about our experiences.
So I think for me, I can share one of the things that really stood out for me on the first evening was the idea that we're allowed to have desires and we're allowed to be happy. I think, I mean, so much of the time we've been sort of brainwashed to think we need to suffer and life is hard, and we live in that space, almost expecting the worst and waiting to suffer. And so I've been meditating on that, and it's been quite it's quite freeing, really. It's I mean, I don't think one just gets there. You don't step into it. It's a process of internalizing it and walking into it. But it meant a lot to me, and it's something I definitely want to pursue. And in fact, funnily enough, I had a discussion with a friend of mine yesterday who's a psychologist, and she was somewhere out of the blue, the conversation went along the lines of how desire is bad, and I actually challenged her on it, and Yeah, I said it's not always like that. So I think there's a lot there. I think, you know, it's a wonderful seed that is germinating, and I'm interested to watch it grow. Yeah, and then yesterday, I'm very interested in how our bodies respond to stress, because I think often we have to cope in our minds, and we have to stay in control. We have to keep going when things are hard or traumatic. And I know a little bit about how our bodies betray us actually sometimes. So you think you're fine and you're over the worst and you plodding along, and then you'll have these funny symptoms that tell you there's something wrong. And so for me, listening to the different types of trauma responses and starting to understand a bit more was really helpful. And it's also something I want to look a bit more into. So yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant, Shelley. Thank you so much for sharing. And when you're growing this, you know, these desires, there's so many rules that contradict it. So there's going to be resistance. But when we start feeling more safe in our bodies, that resistance doesn't become something we try and avoid. Because what we generally try and do is we think we're coping by not going there. Like it's trying to distract ourselves or keep ourselves too busy, or so we don't go into the feelings. But when we start processing the feelings, we get to have them quicker and understand them quicker, and then move on quicker. And so when this resistance comes up with, you know, but really I mean, one of the points that I noticed with my own resistance is not being able to get my kids whatever they want, you know, like money doesn't grow on trees, you know, you've got to work hard for it. And then starting to unpack like, okay, wait, what does that actually mean? I don't have the answers yet, but I'm learning as we go along. But it's beautiful and it's intriguing to see in all the aspects that these beliefs have touched and how much they affect our behavior.
Yeah, and I think this is just creating awareness as well. So it's stopping and thinking and looking. Even today, I just sort of, even if I didn't something didn't change or something didn't improve, it was just standing and looking at how am I responding, how am I feeling, what's my body doing, and yeah,
Beautiful.
So it's giving a space to create awareness. Yeah,
exactly. We're slowing it down so you can actually notice it, whereas normally we're too busy to notice, and then those things creep in because we think we've checked the mental checklist, and our body's going, hang on a second, that's great. Here I am too. And I've got a bunch of things that I need you to know about. So it's fantastic that you're slowing it down, that they start getting to operate on the same level and not separated anymore.
Yeah, I
Anybody
think,
else?
yeah, in general, I think most of my, or a big part of my life, I sort of just pushed all my feelings aside. Like, yeah, well, for me, it worked by getting busier and busier, and not, if I was upset or worried or something, I would like even start unpacking cupboards, or it would give me a sense of being in control. So I would just try and sort of maybe run away from it. So most of or for a big part of my life, even up to today, I mostly find myself in fight or flight mode. It's either I'm ready for a fight, I'm waiting, or it's I just want to go, I just want to disappear. I want to go to Mars, I want to go to an island, I just want to, you know, get away from everything.
Yeah.
But I think what I've tried doing was I've tried putting into practice some of the things you've taught us, like, you know, when I feel there goes my heart, it's going. It's just to put my hand, like you said, on my heart and just slowing down for a minute. And then also telling myself that it's okay to feel what I'm feeling, and not sort of just ignoring it and saying, yeah, you've got to get yourself out of this, or you've got to just, you know, like my ma het altyd gesê, ruk jouself reg, you know, ruk jouself reg. You were never,
Alicia, that's
yourself. Yeah, if you just like, you had a bad day or you felt down and you just said something, or maybe that was the old days or ways, but she said, yeah, ma, you've got to be grateful for what you have, and, you know, and ruk yourself reg. But at that stage, I wasn't in a position, I don't think any person who's in a dark spot actually will be there on purpose. It's not as though And then I think I also feel if you're a sensitive person and you are empath, I do find that things in the world really upsets me. The things going on, I just find if I read about really awful things happening, it really goes in really deep and it shakes my cage. So I'm trying to work with those things, you know, and yeah, it's going to take some time, of course. And like you said, I think you said that you got about the walk. So I know when I wake up in the morning, my mind just races. It's just like, okay, you know, and it's almost like just those thoughts. It actually puts me out of action before I've even started because it's so overwhelming. It's so much. The to-do list is just like endless. And I'm like, you know, I can't even have breakfast. I can't. I'm not going to be able to do this and everything. So the anxiety, it starts the anxiety again. And that also, dit verlam jou heeltemal. Jy kan eintlik dan nou niks doen nie. So just getting up in the morning and instead of allowing my mind to run into everything I've got to do is just to slow down and then go and do my half an hour walk or whatever. The world's not going to come to an end, you know. So I've got a lot of work to, but yeah, at least I'm trying to deal with some of these things. Yes.
Great, Heather. And I think, like Shelley says, it's that awareness that's starting because this has been stretched out for so long. It's not going to overnight just be back like that. It's going to take some time, but it won't change until that awareness comes in. So when we start with a walk in the morning or whatever it is that you choose in the morning, it feels like, what am I doing? I'm just adding more to my list. But when you're on that walk, you start processing, actually, that thing wasn't important, that thing wasn't important, that thing wasn't important. I'll never forget, I was in South Africa, we have the Otter Trail. I know a few of you are from South Africa. It's a very, very lovely hiking trail. And I did it. And just after, it was also just couldn't get off work, last minute decided to do it. And I met somebody afterwards that did the Otter Trail. And he said his friends for 10 years, it's a very beautiful hike in the forest. For 10 years, they'd been going every year and asking him to go with. And every year he would cancel last minute because of a meeting, because of a work crisis, because he was the owner of the company. And then by the 10th year, they said to him, if you don't come with this time, we're not inviting you with again. And once again, there was a work crisis, but this time he decided, I cannot, it will have to survive without me. And he said he went on the trail. And this was when I met them. There's this place where you meet afterwards and everybody hangs their shoes in the trees and like all sorts of things. And he says this was his, like, I don't know, 5th or 6th time that he's never missed it since. And what he realized was he can't remember the first time, the second time, the third time he had to, like, the emergencies at work, those 10 years, he doesn't remember what any of them were. But he remembers those walks so clearly and what it did to him. And at the end of the day, when we are, you know, at the end of the rope, wherever that may be, at the end of our life's journey on this planet right now, I know we're not going to be freaking out like, oh, I should have worked harder. I really wish I did more on that deadline. And that tells us what matters. We've created rules thinking it's going to make flow, and what it often does is it makes it harder. Because the rules contradict. I believe we're all in a process of reparenting ourselves. This isn't really part of the talk tonight, but one of the biggest things that my clients all know that I say a lot is should. I used to call it a swear word, but it's not a swear word. It's now just an informative word. When we say should, you can be quite certain you're busy following somebody's rule. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you haven't owned it yet. It's not a value for you yet. I should do the laundry today. Says who? I should go to that school function. Says who? I should be home more. I should work harder. You can do all those things, but while it's a should, you're following rules and your body's resisting. When you change it to I want to, let's say I want to go to that work function, and your body's like, no, I don't. Here's your answer. And the nice thing about doing that is, let's say at that work function, there's somebody that you really want to mingle with that you know is good for your company or whatever it is. Then you can go, I don't want to go, but I really want to meet that person. Okay, I really want to go. It's not a nice should anymore. And it's not that I should go to the work function because it's a work function. I've set my intention. I'm going to go because I want to meet that person. I think it would be good for my marketing or whatever it is. And then you want to go. But should, you can, like your energy goes just from saying it. In Afrikaans, word. I think we mostly say, oh, ek hoort dit te doen, of ek moes dit gedoen het. Ja, that moes in word is very much used for that should. Anybody else want to check in?
I was just going to share that I think it's really humbling, whoever just spoke before, you know, saying, I'm in fight and flight mode. And, you know, Tequila, you know our story a little bit, but I am in the United States in Nebraska and have 2 young ones, and recently just went to go see more of like what we call a functional medicine, integrative medicine, who kind of like treats the whole person, and had this kind of innovative test. And she was telling me, oh, your cortisol levels are like off the charts, you know, just like so high we can't even chart them, and you must be like a bear is chasing you all the time. And I thought it was really humbling that, you know, even us being in different parts of the world, different seasons in life, different things going on, that there's other women, other, you know, men too, that feel like that. And you feel like, gosh, am I the only one that has this like big burden, you know, and all these demands that we constantly take on, and that it does affect your health, and it does affect your mind and your body and your spirit. And so I'm just really grateful to kind of like have that connection with other people that know we're not alone. And they're has to be more attention given to this for us to not feel like that, because ultimately it's really not healthy, you know. And so taking the time to like figure out what works for each individual is so important. And just to like, maybe for me it was like really eye-opening. Like I knew that I felt like that, but then you have a test that's black and white that says like, oh hey, this is going on. And then it's a little bit alarming and puts you into more of a proactive approach on, well, you need to work on this more. So I just think that that was really like humbling and nice that, you know, others are feeling like that as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really like supposed to be at the end of the talk talking about the ladies group that I'm starting. It's an 8-week ladies group. I did it last year as well. And it's exactly because of that community. I mean, I sit and I hear clients every single day tell me these things. So for me, it's normal. But when I hosted the women's group last year and they said to me, wow, other people are experiencing this too, it hit me that so many women feel alone, men as well, but speaking to the audience at the moment, alone with what they're going through. And I blame social media a lot. Like I'm very pro lots of things, and I'm on social media a lot, but I do know we're bombarded with people's highlight reels. We see the best. Somebody said the other day, not even the beach is good enough anymore. They've got to have filters for Hawaii. And, you know, like we've got everything is so touched up, and it's literally like the best moments. And the best example I have of this is I'm in a very small town in South Africa. And when I was seeing people in person, I've actually stopped now because I found that having kids in school and class parties and bumping into the couples you work with just stopped working. And now I've got this online platform. But I used to so often have clients in my office, and they would say to me, like they'd say to each other, I really wish we were like so-and-so. They are so sorted. Have you seen all the places they go and this that they do? And I can't tell them, but so-and-so is also here, because of confidentiality issues. And that's what I love about these group experiences, is that we get to see we're not alone. And that's why I wanted to start today with a discussion, because it just stops us from being faces on the screen and this intimidation of, yeah, but are they also struggling? Or so to be able to share with each other is beautiful. Heather says, I'm seeing a holistic practitioner, been diagnosed with adrenal burnout, very high adrenal cortisol levels. The road from recovery, I've been on it now for a few years. It's intense. And yet we glorify burnout. I feel that there's this subconscious programming that says a woman is supposed to be stressed out and burnt out. What hit me was there's no naughty badge at the end. Nobody gives you a certificate like, well done. So it's very important that, I mean, the fact that you guys are here and we're going to do the welcome and thing again now, but you thank yourself for being here. Not because it's with me, but because you're saying, hang on a minute, I deserve some time for myself and to figure things out. And I want to bring that focus back to me. There's a talk, this is also not part of my talk. It was the most craziest day today because I'm very intuitive. So when I'm working with clients, I often close my eyes and I feel like, okay, this is what I want to talk to. And all the things I'd prepared for today, just like yesterday, I just couldn't focus. I couldn't get it right. And I see now why, because it's going to take me where I want to go with our conversations. But, oh, now I've forgotten where I want to go. It will come back to me. We'll keep going. I know it will come back to me now. But you guys are in good company here. And I'm so glad you guys are here, that we can get that focus back to you, because that's where it belongs. Where your cup is full, you can pour from. When it's not full, when it's empty, our best intentions get derailed. And then it builds the shame because we're not parenting like we wanted, we're not partnering like we wanted, we're not employing like we're not working like we want to. And it builds on that pressure of I better perform more. We are human beings, not human doings. Such an honor to be here with you all. Anybody else want to share or say something? Or I really appreciate you guys for sharing. It really makes it interactive and can help me guide the conversation to where it's most helpful to you guys. And I really, really appreciate you sharing. Today we're talking about the mind, which is, before I did this talk, prepared for this course, for this masterclass, I knew, I wanted to apologize. I put the videos on this side so that it's not on the writing, and I did not realize until I watched the recording just now last night that it still, Zoom does what it wants and it still puts it over the writing. So I'm really sorry about that. But I hope that you can minimize the screen, that you don't see the camera, the people, so that you can look at the screen if you want to. But there's not going to be too much here because I'm going to go from here today. Again, we're going to, just with a welcome, thank ourselves, like really just, we're going to go into that now, do the intention. We're going to talk about the mind. We're going to do some exercises. I've decided just before I close the class, I'm going to do a lot more exercises. My feeling that I got just before we started was we need to get more calm. So it's not information overload. I want to do more exercise. So I actually wrote down 3 different exercises we're going to do throughout the process tonight so that we can just start practicing with the ways of working with our mind. Oops. What's it doing there? Okay, so before we jump in, and I know we've already jumped into the conversation, but I like putting my hand on my heart. It brings my attention to my body and to my heart. But just to thank yourselves for being here, because by showing up, you are committing to you. You're saying, I'm important. And that is revolutionary and important and crucial to every single relationship. So just thanking yourself for being here. We spoke about the takeaways. Yesterday we spoke about the body scan. So again, we can just quickly adjust. We can check in on ourselves, see if, are we feeling any tightness? Are we feeling any discomfort, just adjusting yourself, move your chair if you want to, get a pillow, rub your neck, move your neck. We're bringing awareness. We don't have to do anything drastic. We don't have to reinvent the wheel at the moment. We're just getting attention and awareness back into our bodies. And then I want to introduce a mind scan. So this is just where I want you to notice, how busy are my thoughts right now? Are they racing? Are they here? Are they at what's for dinner? Are they somewhere else? Not to judge. Again, we're not here to say it's right or wrong or anything like that. It's just to notice, what's my mind doing at the moment? And then again, to set our intention. You're welcome to share it in the chat, otherwise to write it down or just to focus on it. This is what gets me every time, because just before we start, I think about what can I imagine you guys want to feel from today? And then when I think of that, I think about changing my intention and everything that I want to talk about. So, but it's so beautiful because we get to redirect. Often, nothing is as set in stone as we think it is. Perfect. So my intention is to really just help you create. It was this long thing, it's changed. I want to help you guys create a sense of flow. There's more ease in your life, just getting more familiar with your mind so that there's more flow, more ease, and more room to exhale. Just very roughly, you know, the psychology, it used to be science of the soul, which I never knew. And we're talking soul, body, mind, but it's now science of the mind. Over the years, I think people got a little bit like, ooh, soul, I'm not spiritual, or try to be more correct, but now it's science of the mind. But it's pretty much, when we did soul, body, mind, the first night I spoke about soul being actually the mind, and spirit being what I call soul was actually spirit. And now you see that it's the mind, the mental aspect of who we think we are, our identity, our perceptions, our perceived sense of self. That's our psyche, which is our mind, which is our soul. But in this talk, you know, I'm not here to be fancy. I'm not here to be eloquent. I'm here to share. And if we use mind or psyche or brain, it's all the same thing in this sense. It's not a science paper. It's just a discussion. For the purpose of today's talk and for generally how I work with my clients, it's again like body, mind, and soul, where it's so interwoven that it's hard to, like, all the exercises we did with the first day with spirit turned out to be so intertwined with our body and with our mind, calming it down. The second day, the exercises, the exercises we're going to do, they're going to be mental imagery that's going to affect our body and everything as well. So again, when I'm talking about these three parts, there are three systems, I would rather call them, to explain how I approach working with my clients and how I want you to understand thinking about your brain. So we've got the prefrontal cortex in the front here. It's pretty much the last to develop. So it's your rationalizing, your problem solving, your reasoning, your thinking brain. And that's where we spend so much time. Like most of our time is spent there. Like, what's this going to happen? What's going to do? All of those things. Just from a parenting perspective, the third part is the reptile brain. It's the most primitive brain. It's the first to develop. It's the most ancient of the brains. And that is basically your monkey brain. It wants to keep you alive, and it wants to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And in children, this is developed the most first. An adult brain, or a child's brain, is only fully formed as an adult by the age of 24. So this prefrontal cortex is only fully matured by the age of 24. So that's why you get a 2-year-old that will say, it's mine, like, and then they give them the wrong sippy cup and they scream like the world's coming. It's because for them that primitive brain is very much in charge, and reasoning and problem solving only develops gradually over the years. It's not established very well at the beginning. I'm writing something down because I remembered what I wanted to say just now, and it's not the right time now to put it in. So I'm going to quickly just put it down so I don't forget. Okay. So we've got our prefrontal cortex. Then we have our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind is for the ease of flow. It wants to conserve energy. It's our identity. It's what we think we are based on the perceptions we've had around us. Just like the ugly duckling got to believe who it was from the perceptions of the other farm animals, from the impressions it got from its mom looking at it funny. We create this idea of who we are based on the experiences we had growing up. And that helps us to quickly identify what we like, what we don't like. It's to conserve energy, to get the quickest things done. Most of what we do every day is automatic behaviors. We repeat something like 90% of yesterday's thoughts today. And we're on autopilot most of the time. If you don't believe me, if you're right-handed, try it tomorrow and do everything left-handed. You'll notice all of a sudden showering feels weird, opening the car door feels weird, making your coffee feels weird, and you notice how many things just happen without your awareness. Other automatic behaviors, driving. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten home and gone, how did I get here? Because it's so known, there's no emotional, interesting things. Heather, do you want to say something? You're on mute.
No, my neighbour just walked past and waved, so I forgot I'm on. So just pardon that.
No, not at all. I thought you wanted to say something. All good.
No.
I'm going to take a sip of water quick. So I don't know about how many of you guys, but getting home without knowing how you got there, because it's so automatic. It's not important in the scale of what's emotionally getting your attention at that time. Usually for me after work, I'm thinking about, like, I don't like cooking at all. So it's about, oh, what am I going to make the kids for dinner tonight? Like, okay, let's try and think of making a plan. Like, can I get to the shops on time? What's in the freezer? Get home like, oh, how did I get here? It's automatic. It wants to conserve energy for what's most important, staying alive. The number one job of your brain is to keep you alive. Because when you're dead, reasoning, problem solving, connecting, romance, empathy, none of those things matter. So it's first tries to keep you alive. And when you feel safe, all these other aspects light up. So when you're in this fight, flight, freeze mode, and when you're there all the time, what pretty much is happening, if you do an MRI in your brain, you'll be able to see there's so much activity happening in your primitive brain, in your hind brain, your limbic system. All of those are connected to keep you ready for battle. There's very little activity going on in the prefrontal cortex. And what's like, at first it's like shocking, but then you realize, if I achieved all of that with that little bit of activity there, imagine what I could do when I'm feeling safe. Because when we're in that freaked out state, we're using very little of our rational reasoning brain. So when we get to be safe, and that's why you'll find my biggest insights, most of my clients that I speak to, their insights, if you work with, big business plans like that, have ideas that have bloomed or blossomed or, dawned on people, it's not in the, push rush thing. It's usually, most of the time, having a bath, walking in nature, taking that swim, playing with the kids, out of that scurry into, and then, what? That's such a good idea. Just before you fall asleep. For me, what I do is I used to have a notepad, now I use my phone, but I've got a notepad on my phone and I just quickly jot some ideas, because we tend to not be able to fall asleep if our mind is going, but this is such a good idea. You're going to lose it. So if you write it down, then your brain knows, okay, we can sort this out later. I've got it. Let's move on. So to understand that the first job is just get safe. If we're going to be like, I just want to be more compassionate and I really want to connect with my partner more, and I would really like to write 10 pages for my thesis, and then I'll get to my safety, we're doing it the hard way around. So by connecting, going for that walk first thing in the morning, connecting with actually right now, I'm safe, allows you access to more of your problem solving and reasoning, and your imagination. Your imagination is so crucial, because it's in that we get to dream, and that we get to reshift our identity of who we thought we were to who we want to be. And when we've done that groundwork of day one of what are my desires, and I'm allowed to have them, playing with who you want to be gets fun. So I've just read the problem solving, identity and habits, staying alive, but it's also your emotional center. Even though your emotions are in your body, there's a, our brain is like the big computer system, the motherboard that operates everything and makes sure everything, all the systems flow. So it's your memory, your body functions, movement, sensory input, interpretation, all the important stuff, but not for my discussion tonight. BWRT. I know this isn't a talk about BWRT, but I got so, for me, when I studied BWRT is brain working recursive therapy. It's a therapeutic technique that we use to reframe past traumatic events very quickly. And what I get to do with my clients is phenomenal. But the reason I wanted to bring it into the talk today is because what it taught me was that our subconscious brain that forms this identity and that takes these automatic behaviors and these ideas to get me to safety uses images and emotions to decide what's important. Because if you think about, basically, let's put it this way. If you are in a, let's do the driving example. Drive home every single day, and I hope this isn't triggering to anybody that if you've been in a car accident. But if I drive home every single day and I don't know how I got there, there's no emotional connection to my drive home. So I don't remember it. It's not relevant. I still get home safely. My brain is aware and it's doing the thing, but it's also wandering elsewhere, getting to what I need to be thinking about. But let's say on my way home, I drove into a tree. Could have been 5 years ago. But every single time I get close to that tree, or if I drive past a tree that looks similar to that tree, my body will start tensing, my heart will start racing, my whole body will get much more focused, my attention will go away from all those underthoughts, because that tree and I had an emotional event. We had an emotional exchange. That tree all of a sudden became very relevant. And what happens when there's a big fear response, our brain presses instantly record. If I ask you what you ate last week, if I ask you what you ate yesterday, you probably won't even remember. Not emotionally important. But that car accident was emotionally relevant. So I would be able to recall it vividly, what I was wearing, what song was on the radio, because what our brain decides is, I'm going to remember exactly what happened, so that if we make it out alive, we know what to do next time. And if we died, it doesn't matter that we used all this brain space. And then you realize how many traumatic events you've been in your life. And it doesn't have to be just car accidents, but I've worked with people where there was one bullying incident at school, and we worked just on that one incident with BWRT, and their panic attacks went away. 30 years later. There's an accumulation usually. There's a bunch of things, but the reason I'm bringing it into today's discussion is because I want you to understand that our brain, the brain we're trying to talk to, like, stop overthinking, just get over this, why are you telling me all of these things? I can't help it. Or it was just a stupid tree. You're not even driving so fast, so stop getting anxious about the tree. It doesn't speak words. So when we do BWRT, we use visualizations and emotions to help rewrite the memories. And in our own life process, vision boards, there's a reason it boomed. Because when you're seeing it and you get to keep seeing it and feeling the feelings, it's important to feel the feelings though. If you don't add the feelings, it's not going to have the same effect. How many movies do you watch and you just in the one ear, out the other? But when it becomes personal, and you get to see yourself in that movie, or when you get to see yourself on that vision board, your brain pays attention. All of a sudden it matters. So the brain hits instant record. The Libet experiment showed us that, these are just random facts, but I find it really fascinating. Typically in therapy, they teach us cognitive behavioral therapy. That's like one of the go-to modalities. And that is where you start becoming aware of what's going on. So let's say you're angry, and then they try and teach you behaviors that you can do to circumvent the anger. And so when you're angry, go for a walk, take a deep breath. Yesterday or the day before I told you, try and think afterwards, reflect on why you got angry. But those are after it happened. So what we're trying to do then is we're trying to rewire. Our brain is amazing. And because of neuroplasticity, it gets to rewire. We're not stuck. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Nonsense. I've helped, I think my oldest couple was 80, but we can rewire things. We don't have to stay as is. But what we do then is with cognitive behavioral therapy is we're working from the prefrontal cortex. We're working from the conscious, rational brain and saying, okay, every time I'm angry, I'm going to do this. And slowly trying to rebuild the connections to build new neural pathways to our automatic behavior system, our subconscious brain. And what we do with BWRT is we work directly with that. But what I want to say with the Libet experiment is what they found with the Libet experiment is there's 0.6 seconds between when you're triggered and when you're consciously aware of it. And so when they say don't get angry, or why did I get angry? You're 0.6 seconds too late. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but in your brain, that's nearly 200 miles it's traveled, collecting all the relevant data. Oh, there was at one time you almost also crashed, and that other time that you were in that other crash with that other person, or let's say you're talking about an argument with a partner. Why am I getting so worked up? Well, remember your parents fight there and the parents fight there, and that fight that you saw in childhood, or that your friend's house, it fetches all the memories that were emotional that were similar to that in that 0.6 seconds. And you think you're just responding to that thing your husband just said. No, it's miles and miles and miles of past you're responding to. And that's why healing is so important, so that we get to have a fresh perspective. So when we're in that situation, it's not based on something a parent said, an ex did, a friend neglected to do, but it's based on me now. You're untethering yourself from all those connections from the past. How are you guys doing? I don't know why I can't see you all. I've got to jump the screen every now and then to see the rest. But let's go. Okay. I really love this quote. It was in I put it like every time I get a new diary, I put all my old favorite quotes in, but they're almost so big that it takes up my whole diary. But this diary has been with me since school. This quote to me: what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. The universe is within us, and yet we play so small. I think that society or religion, and I am Christian, but it's like not your typical, so it's like religion has often taught us we have to be humble. I'm not going to create something. These classes are a good example. What good would it do if I created it, but I didn't tell anybody? If you create something that you're passionate about, you want everybody to know. And God created every single person here. We don't have to play it small. The bigger we play it, the more we give permission to everybody around us to be like, oh, yes. When I used to work with kids and with teens and things, what I would often say to them is, because they would be like, how do I not sound arrogant and like or narcissistic? And the thing is, when you're a narcissistic, you have to put somebody else down. When you're arrogant, you have to put somebody else down. If you're saying, I make better cake than you, that's not cool. But when you can say it, like I make the best cheesecake under the sun, like I really make, well, best is maybe not the best, but it's a really freaking good cheesecake and I love you guys to try it. It gives your friends permission to be like, I'm really good at maths. Do you want me to help you? I saw you struggle with the hurdles and I'm really good at it. I love the hurdles. Do you want me to help you, or do you want, like, just allowing yourself to feel good about what you do. We're not in competition. We each have a unique voice. I was at the hairdresser quickly, and the lady, the hairdresser, she's literally booked out 3 months in advance. And I mean, she says there's just over 50 hairdressers in our little town. And we were talking about how when you discover your voice, you can't help but stand out. You know, you have to stand out, and you get heard and you get seen because there's no competition for you. If a snowflake can be so unique and it melts a few seconds after landing, how much more your impression? Just a quick checking in again. How are you guys doing? Just to check with your body, literally shift in your chair if you need to, move around, stretch, roll your shoulders. Really just want to get you into touching base with your body. I'm going to go back to this, but I want to quickly check how you're all doing and if there's any questions so far. Perfect. I'm just deciding which one of the 3 visualizations I want you guys to do. Are you guys all okay with doing a visualization? Are you like, you keen to do it? Okay, perfect. What we're going to do now is basically, it's something that I really like to do to connect. We've got our thinking mind, our feeling heart, and then our gut is a safety center. It's where we feel safe from. And when we cut ourselves off from this, generally, I mean, this is completely random, but if I speak to clients and I ask them if they're anxious, where do they feel it? Here. The longer we've been in a stress mode and a freaked out mode, the higher up, until eventually it only headaches or migraines. But our gut is our safety center. When a kid's scared of school, or they've got something they don't want to do, my tummy's sore. It starts there, but but you've got to go, shut it down, don't listen. And then we live superficially here with that pressure of the anxiety, and then it's just headaches, migraine, neck tension. It gets higher and higher. So what I want us to do with this visualization is to start building a pathway again from our brain to our heart to our gut. And when we do this, I'm going to be asking you, and I'm just explaining it up front, because when it's one-on-one, it's easier to trust me and jump right in. Whereas I feel if we're in a group like this, that you know what's coming could be a little bit easier. But basically, I want you to imagine when we're there, and your imagination is beautiful because it comes from your subconscious. So everything it's telling you is a message. So even though you're making it up, it's your brain making it up. So we're talking to your brain. So I want you to imagine a room in your head. That's your brain room, your thinking room, your prefrontal cortex, that mainframe motherboard computer room. And you're going to notice it when we're doing it. There's going to be either overclutter or empty, and we'll guide you through it. But we're going to make it beautiful. We're going to make it into a room that you feel really comfortable in. And then we're going to go down. I'm going to tell you to imagine that the electrical cable connecting that to your heart room. And then we're going to go into your heart room. Sometimes there's resistance, in which case you can just put your hand on your heart and breathe. You don't have to keep the exercise going. It can be too resistant, but generally I've got very good response. We're going to go into the heart space. We're going to see what's going on there. And then we're going to channel down into your stomach. And we'll go into your gut space. I'll call it your safety space, but it's, that whole area can be your safety space. But we're just going to imagine how it's looking and what we want it to look like, and start shifting some things around. Because of the years of build-up, one visualization is powerful, but I find we need to repeat it a few times. Neural pathways get repeated and then they get solidified. That once off doesn't create permanent, but we repeat it. So if you're all comfortable closing your eyes, And I often close my eyes too because it's my way of visualizing and trying to sort of tap into what's going on for you guys. Taking a few deep breaths, however you want to, but bringing awareness to your breath, to your body, to the moment of now. Noticing that every time you exhale, your body softens. I want you now to open the door in your mind to your command center, your prefrontal cortex, your mind, your brain, whatever makes sense to you. But there's this room in your head where you spend a lot of time. Now I want you to imagine opening the door and without judgment, just noticing what you see. For most of us, it's completely overcrowded. For some people, when there's been a lot of dissociation, it could be completely empty, or it thinks it's empty, but it's like a veil that's over everything. But I want you to notice what's in that room. And then I want you to, if it's overcrowded, start putting the things into piles. So there's little 2 back doors, and the one is to sort out later, and the other one is to incinerate, get rid of. So you get to quickly just put into 3 piles. The one is that's going to stay in the room where it is, the other one is to sort out later, and the other one is to be incinerated. And the incineration isn't on yet, so you can change your mind. It's just the room where it will be, so you can still take things out, so you don't have to think too much about it. But I want you to just notice, and it can just be boxes. It doesn't have to be specific memories or specific events or anything like that. It's just boxes. This room full of files or boxes or old computer systems. Or, I don't know if you guys have, but we've got these drawers, or we used to have these drawers at home with cables for things I don't think they even make anymore, like typewriters and all sorts of stuff. Like, so just chucking them into the room to sort out later. They've got bubble wrap on automatically, so if you're worried about anything breaking, it won't. But just spend some time putting some things. We don't have to finish everything today. We're just taking a little bit of this break now to sort things out. And the things that you don't want to sort out, that you want in this room, you leave in. Otherwise, you can put it into the sort out later or into the get rid of room. Then I want you to imagine this room now. So you've got the things in the other rooms. You can close the door. We're not going to put the incinerator on just yet in case there's some anxiety around, should I really get rid of that or whatever. But look in your room now and see if there's anything that you want to add to your room. Maybe you want to bring some plants in, some tablecloths or windows or lights. Maybe less lights, maybe more candles, whatever it is. Just make that room a more comfortable space to be in. And if there's still things that you didn't get to yet, it's not a problem. You're going to get to it whenever you want to. You can get back to that room whenever you want to. But for now, just making sure you're making that room a little bit more livable. And because it's your imagination, you can bring in couches, you can bring in swings, you can bring in whatever you want to instantly. And then just before we're going to go to the next room, you're going to stand there by the incinerator door. And there's a button, a beautiful red button. It will instantly incinerate everything in that room if you want to. If you're not certain, you can leave it as is and you can sort it out later. But for those of you that feel things in there definitely you don't need, you don't want, you're ready to get rid of it, doesn't matter what it is, those boxes, those files, just press that beautiful red button and notice how instantly lighter you feel. And then allowing yourself to go from that room. You'll notice there's this big black cable. I've got a black cable, your cable can be any color you want, but there's a cable going from your brain down very comfortably. You don't notice it in your body at all, but it's a strong, solid cable that goes down to your heart. But I want you to be careful as you go down it. Make sure there's no blockages. You might find that there's some narrowing, or the pipe got bent, or there's something blocking it. This isn't about rationalizing what it could be or thinking about, what's my voice not telling me or anything like that. This is just about imagining if you see any physical blockages and allowing yourself to clear it out. And noticing how much smoother and more spacious it gets as you're clearing it out and you get to your heart room. You might notice as you get to your heart space, you're taking a big breath, bringing more awareness to that area. If not, just take a nice big breath. Allow your body to make more space there. And as you get to your heart room, I want you to open that door and just notice what you're seeing. Again, no judgment. Some people find it really hard to open the door. There's a lot of locks. And they need to be oiled. They need to be updated. Instead of having 15 different blocks, maybe just a keypad. Whatever it is that allows you to enter that heart space much easier, but still makes you feel safe. And as you get into that heart space room, noticing what you see. Is it tiny? Is it massive? Is it overcrowded? Is it dusty and spiderwebby? What do you need to do to make that room much more welcoming? A place where you feel so loved and so welcome and so special. And again, you can have a door that's to get rid of, a door for sorting out later. You'll find that maybe there's not as much things to go and to sort out, or there might be lots. Whatever it is, there's no wrong here. This is your room. Yours alone. So giving yourself a chance to explore your heart room. Just getting into that area, that space, and make it nice. Whatever would be special for you. It's safety center. And even though our gut is going to be our safety space, where we're going to talk a lot more about safety, I also want it to feel safe in your heart, where all the emotions are welcomed. You can even imagine a big dinner table. And there could be name tags. Sadness, grief, anger, despair, overwhelm, sorrow, joy, pleasure, delight, excitement. They're all welcome there. You might find resistance. I don't want jealousy at the table. Anything like that. Oh, I don't want to want things. And it's a bit much to go through right now, but allow yourself, be okay with that for now. Knowing that at the moment, this is what I feel safe with, and that's okay. And one day they'll be welcome. And then wrapping up in that room, not because it's finished, you can go back there anytime. Having a final gaze over your room just for now, and notice how different you feel seeing it now. And then you're coming back into that black cable, or that cable that runs from your heart to your safety zone, down in your stomach area. Noticing again, are there kinks, are there bends, are there blockages? Do you need to make some repairs to the cable? Do you need to put a new cable in? Whatever, there's no judgment, there's no right or wrong. How do we connect our heart to our gut again? If you can fix it now, fix it now. If you can't do it now, put a work in progress sign there. So you know you're coming back there. Make your way down into your safety zone, into your safety center. It's going to cut out again. Just the 7 o'clock thing happened again, but just go back to your gut room. All good. People watching replays are going to also be confused with this non-interrupted interruption. But closing your eyes, allowing yourself, wherever it starts, if it's in your mind, go down that channel again, all the way down into your safety zone, into your stomach area, your gut area. And this door might be stuck. It might be missing. It might be just a normal door. Just notice yourself opening that door. Some people feel resistance here because we haven't gone there in a long time. If it's making you feel anxious, if it's making you feel a bit nervous, if your heart's racing, rather put your hand on your heart, take a few deep breaths and open your eyes. Don't carry on with this exercise. I don't want you to do it if it feels too resistant. But otherwise, I want you to go into your stomach area and see what's going on in that room. Sort out what you need to. Most of the time, I find people need to bring light there, that the light isn't shining there, that there hasn't been much light in that room for a long time. You can bring in some light, bring in some color. We're not going to do much here today. We're just starting the process. Even if it's just opening the door for today. Have a look at what you see, what you notice, and just making a mental note of what you want to do there next time. So that you know this isn't getting neglected again, this isn't getting pushed aside again, but that is something you can do anytime. And I would love it if tonight you did it again by yourself and spend some more time in any of the rooms that you feel you want to spend time in. But when you've done what you feel that you can for this process right now, bring your awareness back to the sensations in your body. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your hands, maybe shifting your seat a bit. Take a big breath, thank yourself for doing the exercise. And you can open your eyes. I would love to hear from you guys. How was that? Anybody want to give feedback? No problem. Heather says it was strange in a certain way. Did it make you feel uncomfortable, or in an uncomfortable strange, or more of a you're welcome to unmute. Like, I love discussions. I know that we're already quite late, but I'd love to hear from you guys.
I was surprised that there were actually images that arrived. Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. So it was interesting, the images that did arrive. Yeah, and yeah, how easy it was. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that, Shelley. And it's amazing how it's just images, and our brain knows it's images, but it makes sense to our brain because it talks images. So it's a very effective technique. And if there is resistance, there's also you know, I'm never against resistance. Resistance is there for a reason. So it's telling us something too. Heather, you said it was strange in a certain way, uncomfortable or?
No, not uncomfortable. I'm sort of asking myself, what am I supposed to be seeing? Like, what am I looking out for? I'm not sure. What should I be seeing? Okay, so in the mind, for me, there was just nothing. Like, I don't see a thing, nothing. It's like an empty room. There's nothing. But on the other hand, there's so much that I think I don't want to see what's there. So I'm just like, I'd rather see nothing than see everything that's going on. Maybe that's what it means. My heart, that was easy because I could see I could see clearly what's in my heart. That's easy for me. And then the stomach was, yeah, that was interesting because I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be looking for. And I mean, I've battled with digestive issues all my life. Also, I think related to a lot of emotional stress. I know that your liver is the biggest emotional organ, you know, kind of things like that, that I'm battle with feces goeters. Which obviously comes from other places, then affecting my body. It's not that I'm sick, but it's also not the way it should be. So I know the digestive system is the system in your body that has the most, or actually has got the most serotonin. Interesting, it's not your brain. So if your digestive system, or your, like you said, if that's not working well, that is why often you will have mental issues, because it's not absorbing what it should be. So yeah, it was just that, like, sort of, what am I supposed to be looking for? Do I need to look for certain things, or do I just more listen to what I'm feeling at that stage? That's basically, yes.
Thank you for sharing. And it's really hard. Like, when I hear what should I be feeling, there's a lot of rules and a lot of, like, I need to do it right, and stress from that response. So it's allowing yourself to play, which I don't think has been allowed for a really long time. I'm not going to go too deep because I don't know you and I don't want to do it on a public, but it's okay to feel that, to have just started the process, to start. And it's literally permission to have an imagination and play with your thoughts. So if I had a command center room in my head, how would I like it to look? How does it look at the moment if I have to imagine? At the moment, it's empty because behind that cupboard door, I saw a meme over COVID time, and they said, I haven't panicked cleaned in a while, and you can notice. And it's exactly like what happens. Friends coming, like, shove it all in the cupboard, and like, okay, everything's fine. You know, so it could be that space in your brain, everything's been shoved in there, and it's just like, there's nothing here, because it feels too overwhelming, too scary to go there, because if I had to start looking, I wouldn't know where to stop. And that's perfect. Your brain already spoke to you. It said, nothing here, nothing to see. It's trying to protect you, which is a message already. Our bodies and brain, I love it. It really is phenomenal. Anybody else want to share anything?
I found it really empowering. I like walked into the room. I was like, oh, let's get to work. Here's how I want it to be. And just started moving things and then popping things in. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie. It's a Disney movie, Inside Out. But it's a little girl's brain, and her feelings, you know, are these balls, and she has like this command center, and they all have really strong personalities. So it almost felt like it was kind of like that too, that I was like moving all the pieces around in the command center.
I love that imagery. I've loved that movie, and I didn't think about it, but now that you're going to see it, it's beautiful. Let's see how far. I know that we're quite late, but I'm glad that we're doing what we're doing. Let's see how we're going. Okay, so if we stop after this, I'm happy. There's much more slides, but this was my last minute slide that I threw in that I want to discuss everything on. The first one it's very important for couples that I work with, but when we're in that survival response, and I did touch on it yesterday, we go into that conversation to survive. So a lot of times when we think we're talking to our kids or we're talking to our partner, but we're in a heightened stress state, we think we're trying to communicate, but we're not. We're trying to debate, win or lose, right or wrong. We're trying to win because our brain thinks if I win this, they're going to see I'm right and everything's going to be fine. I'll be safe. And I use this example often because it's still true after all these years. I've never in all the years of working with couples, when I had them in my office, when I see them online, never in the middle of an argument, does one of them go, oh, my sweetheart, you're right. I never thought of it that way. And yet we all expect them to do it. Like if I persuade them enough, they're going to do that. They can't, because when they're hijacked by their survival response, their response is not to connect. It's not to empathize. It's not to have compassion. It's to win, to protect us. So survival responses, communication. This is something small that I thought about this morning early, and it was just not small, but it's not really in a flow of things. But oh, that's why, because somebody reached out, their partner blames them for everything, and they're always to blame, and they want their partner to come and see me. And I mentioned to them that I don't work with people that are in the victim status. And it sounds really harsh, but if somebody thinks it's everybody else's fault, they're not here by me to take personal responsibility and take action to change. They're here by me to get validation of what they feel, and I'm not going to waste their time or their money, because I'm not going to give that to them. When we're in the victim mode, where we think it's everybody else's fault and nothing ever good happens to me and I'm just always going to be this way, everything else has the control except me. And if I don't have control and I don't have power, I'm in a heightened stress response because my body doesn't feel safe. It doesn't trust itself. So it's this vicious cycle, because the more stressed I am, the more high alert I am, the more high alert I am, the more I'm looking for possible danger, the more I'm going to feed this world is insane. As for watching the news or watching these terrible things happening to people with the empathy statement earlier, I do not watch the news. I do not watch it. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing in my control. What I do is I do community upliftment work. I do, charity work. I do free events, and I do see my clients. I do what I can about my environment and my community. But knowing what's going on in the world in that sense does not help me. It makes my mood go down, and I do not get to light other people's candles when my own candle's blown out too. And how often do we not blow out our candles to make the people around us not feel bad? An interesting perspective on empathy. There's a lot of empaths out there, in the sense of, and I'm not very strict on this, but I read this a couple of years ago, and now I'm seeing people saying it as well. It's hard to just discern who's an actual empath, unless you know your childhood was perfect, which very few people had, or where it's a heightened response. Remember, we spoke about fawning. And fawning is where you learn to make sure you're meeting the needs of those around you so that you feel useful, so that they save you. Because pretty much, if you look at any animal, let's look at a impala or a bokkie, like a buck that's born, within a few minutes, if not seconds, it can run away from danger. Humans, pretty helpless. We can't even walk properly by a year. We're very dependent on our caregivers to keep us alive. And so when we, I'm doing it again, I just forgotten. Empathy, that's it. So when we are in this very, 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 very vulnerable position, and our crying didn't work, our asking didn't work, our cute smiles didn't work, we get to a resort of, okay, I will try and make myself useful because then you'll save me. And there's a conversation around whether empathy for a lot of people isn't that fawn response, being so tuned into people around you to meet their needs, to feel safe, that as adults, we think we're highly empathic, but we're still in that highly tuned in mode. Either way, we're highly tuned in and receptive to others, and it's a good thing, except when it's at your own cost. So part of my 8-week group, what do we do? One of the things we talk about is an energy audit and a time audit and things like that, because what you feel and what you do is crucial. If you do not look after you, you cannot look after your kids. I know all these things, and in the height of my burnout, being a good parent was impossible. Everything was threatening. Cough, cold, fight. So we have to, empathy is beautiful, doesn't matter, but safety first. Our body's primed, safety first, then we'll sort everything else out. We mistake familiarity with safety. This again is about my couples a lot, because I see a lot of people, they'll go back to a relationship. It was just like their exes and their exes, or they'll go from an abusive house and marry an abusive partner, because that instant, that attraction they felt at first, what they thought was safety, because I know this person knows me, we get along so well. It's so often the familiarity of what we felt in our childhood home. So working on those, untethering ourselves from the past, like I said earlier with the BWRT, it helps us to not mistake that familiarity with safety again. And then a mental hack that I want to share. Don't, the word don't is the worst directions possible. If I tell you guys, don't touch your nose, but don't look at me, don't sit down. You can do something else, but it takes a little while. It's like, okay. If I had to explain to you how to get to my house, and I said, don't go to that town, don't go to that town, but when you're in that town, don't go down that road, and definitely don't go down that road, and don't go down that road. You're not going to have a clue how to get to me. Our brain is thinking all the time. Our subconscious brain, our problem-solving brain, all those parts are just busy working things out for us. If you don't believe me, think about when you wrote exams. You'd wake up in the middle of the night, or I did, and most of the people I know did, that I've ever asked, everybody I've ever asked, you'd wake up in the middle of the night like, oh, that was the answer. It's long gone, but your brain was still thinking about it. But we're giving it bad instructions, so it doesn't know what to think about. Like I said yesterday, don't think about an elephant. Guess what your brain has to do? It has to think about the elephant to not think about the elephant. So when we're talking to ourselves, don't, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to have a crappy relationship. I don't want to miss this. Our brain literally has to think about all those things we don't want. And then we wonder why these things are happening. Parenting hack as well. How many times we tell our kids, don't slam the door. Don't talk to me like this. Don't do this. Don't do that. But they've got no clue. Since I noticed it and I tried to change the conversation with my own kids and started to talk to them better, I realized how freaking hard it is. What am I expecting them to do instead? But expect them to just instantly do something differently. So don't, doesn't mean you can't ever say don't. Knowing what you don't want is great because it shows you what you do want, because the opposite of that is usually the way. But I want us to start being more aware of our shoulds and don't. And then to remember the visualizing and the feeling is so important to make things understood by your brain more. You've got to let yourself move forward physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You've got to stop holding yourself in the life that once was. You're not who you were anymore. It's time for fresh perspectives, a change of scenery, new beginnings. Okay, so we're not going to do that. Things you can control. I just want to quickly go through this. It's important because if we can't control things, we can feel like victims. And when we feel like victims, we feel helpless. And when we feel helpless, we're more inclined to rage and panic and stress. You can control your thoughts. When you can't, get help, whether it's at a holistic practitioner, whether it's, I want to say this, a lot of people take antidepressants, and I'm not against it at all. But for me, and I'm actually for it in times where it's needed. But for me, it's about if you fall and bump your leg, let's say it's really badly cut, you're going to put a bandage on. The bandage doesn't make you better, but it stops new germs, new knocks, new dust from going into that wound so that it can heal. And for me, antidepressants and things like that are brilliant if they're being a bandage to stop new negative thoughts, to stop the heaviness of the emotion, to stop the heaviness of the overwhelm, so that you at the bottom of it can heal. And then you take off the bandage. If you knock yourself again, who knows? Some people are more accident prone, some people knock themselves. Who cares? If it's not about how many times you need it, but if you need it, you need it. Please don't take this as I'm saying, go onto antidepressants and go off whenever you want to. It's a much more delicate process. But to understand that it's not there that you have to take it for the rest of your life. There's very few people that have an androgynous depression, which is from childhood with, physical cause. Most of us, it's developed over time. So please talk to your doctor. I'm not saying how you can go on it and off it, but to see it as a bandage and that you're doing the healing work, that it's still required that you do healing work underneath it. Your beliefs, very hard to change. Your integrity, I find when we work on values, which we do in the 8-week course, becomes easier. Your attitude, these things are all part of what you think is your identity. So when we change your identity, which you get to choose, because the one you've lived in up to now has been an accumulation of beliefs that you thought other people thought you were. And we get to choose who we are. This was a TEDx talk that I watched, and the guy talks about, this is a lovely little exercise that you can do, but he talks about when you wake up, think about 5 people that you're really grateful to have in your life. So instead of starting your day with those to-dos, that list of all those things, jumping in with 5 people I'm so grateful for. If you've got one person, bring that one person up. If you can stretch it to 5, go all 5, but just starting with, it takes it away from us and the things we have to do, but this person, they've changed my life so much. I'm actually going to give them a call today, like that sort of thing. So it's 5, 3, 2 is the rule. 5 as you wake up, 3 minutes when you get home from work or from town to just be present. Not judging like, you guys have made a mess, or why isn't dinner done, or why is this? Just 3 minutes of, how are you guys doing? How was your day? What's going on? And then the 2 seconds is for every time you meet somebody. It takes 2 seconds to judge them dangerous, not dangerous, like them or not. But he reckons to just put your hand on your heart and say, I wish you well. Just starting it because we've got this stress response which filters what we're seeing in any case. And if we can just start it with, I wish you well. You don't have to say it out loud, but imagine that when you see somebody, meet somebody, he believes it can make shifts in people. And I know, like smiling at people that don't expect it changes them. Like I've seen them like turn around and look again and like sort of smile again and just carry on with their day, or complimenting out of the blue. We do have an effect of the people around us. Okay, so I know that we're going way over time and I want to be considerate of all of your time. I do have this 8-week course that I've spoke about briefly last night, but for me, this 8-week course is about, and this is for people watching the replay, for you guys, it's really about connecting a group of people that want to learn how to regulate the nervous system, how to connect with their authentic self, we do a lot of body work where we get to unpack those stuck emotions so that we can let them go, so we can see ourselves more clearly, that we can feel safer with ourselves and build the trust within ourselves. So many people I know look very well presented on the outside, work is going well, family life is going well, but inside there's a longing, there's a disconnect. And so it's an 8-week program for women. This is a rough, looking at what I did last year and tweaking it a little bit, but this is a rough outline of what we will be doing. Manifesting, some people are scared of the word manifesting. Manifesting, we all manifest daily. We consciously create things or unconsciously create things, but we're creating our lives by what we believe we're worthy of or not. So being intentional about manifesting the life of our desires and the identity that we want. Body bliss, having intimate conversations, healing within our body with those stuck emotions. I lead you in a small group, all about surrender and soul-led living more, guilt-free self-care, energy auditing, time scarcity reset, more body bliss where we work on our bodies in week 5, week 6, guilt-free boundaries, clarity and confidence. Week 7, values are so integral in steering our behavior. And then week 8, just recapping all the previous weeks as well as the first 3, these 3 days that we did here, and just closing and wrapping it up in a way that's more helpful. And so that includes, just so that you're all aware, 8 live calls. They're 90 minutes each. Sometimes they go over. Private Facebook group. I will have a Vox or a WhatsApp group where we can connect and chat to each other right through the week. The journal with really deep prompts that takes the conversation further after the classes, between the classes, and a free one-on-one with me. I had feedback from a client that did it last year, and this was just some of her feedback. That group and everything you helped us with, the tools, etc., were of unmeasurable value. It brought about an incredible change in how I live and equipped me to handle things so much better. Will forever be endlessly grateful for it. Hope your new group is amazing. They just need to embrace what you teach and the rest will follow. And the reason I brought this in is because I wanted you guys to notice that a year later, it still resonates and it's still being used and effective, that it's not just a course that you sort of start and don't finish. And as a special, just for the rest of this week, this will be the price, $997, and there's payment plans, but this isn't my favorite part of a discussion, so I'm just going to put it out there and you guys can think about it. I'm not saying, like a lot of places will say, by the end of the day you've got to decide. Nonsense. I don't want you to make any decisions from a stressed state. I want you to think about it and ponder on it and spend some time doing your maths. I don't want you to do something that you can't financially do and put you in that stress state in any case. So that's about the course. I'm really passionate about it because I know the impact it has, and I love that community of women that it creates. Other than the course though, well, with the course included, you can ask questions. Do you guys have any questions or feedback or anything about the 3 days? Because we're going to wrap up now and it's going to be the finish, the end of it. So anything you want to ask, anything you want to clarify, I would love to hear from you. There's no questions, that's also fine. How are you all feeling? Are you feeling okay? Feeling a little bit better equipped? Feeling grounded?
I just think it's been such a lovely time of focus and just giving space to listen, to hear, to putting oneself first, really, and just realizing what one needs. So I'm very grateful for this time, and I think it's it's the many seeds that are sown. So it's going to be so wonderful to just explore more.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Yvette, of course, go get the boys into bed. Have a good night. Thank you for being here. It's such an honor to do this. And I know that, well, I intentionally hope that over the last 3 days, I didn't hold back so that there's seeds planted that can make shifts in your lives. So I'm really, really grateful that you took the time, that you prioritized yourself. I know that we get taught, like with the couples that I work with most of the time, the moms would be right at the end of the list. You know, the husbands would even say the dogs are on the list, the kids are on the list, everybody's before me. And then I'll say, but where's the wife? Where's the mom? And they're usually even beyond that. So to be here present doing this for yourself is a gift to all your relationships. Thank you guys for being here. I so appreciate it. And I wish you a most beautiful night further.
You
and
too.
Day.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Have a beautiful night. Or you're going to have day, afternoon.
Yeah, day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.